Hey, what's up, family? It is your host, Dr. J, with another phenomenal episode for hashtag It Could Have Been Me, where we're talking to two phenomenal leaders, two phenomenal women leaders about their journey in the educational setting and with educational leadership. So on my right-hand side, I have Dr. Shirley Brutu, who is the Executive Director for the Benjamin Banneker Charter School. And on my left-hand side, I have Mrs. Natalie Guthrie, who is an Assistant Principal over at Needham Public Schools. Ladies, welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we just gonna jump right into it. First of all, how are you?
I'll start.
All right. How are you?
So I'm a daughter of two amazing Haitian parents. I'm a wife and mother of 3 biological children and 2 bonus daughters. And I'm the blessed principal of the Benjamin Banneker Charter Public School in Cambridge, Mass. A K-6 STEM school that is an amazing place to be, and I've been there for 30 years.
Really?
Yes. Well, almost 30 years.
Well, we just rounded up to 30 years.
Yes, that's really nice. I started there as a second grade teacher, and I've been the principal since 2014.
Wow. So do I call you principal or executive director?
So they use them as a charter school. They use it interchangeably.
Okay.
I am my own superintendent.
Okay, so do I call you superintendent?
I prefer
superintendent.
I prefer you didn't. I like
Okay.
My favorite part is being the principal. So.
Okay. I believe you just won an award recently.
I did.
Tell us more about that.
I just won the 2025 Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King for drum major in education from Cambridge NAACP Award.
Woo! Let's go.
Pretty exciting.
Congratulations. That is huge. I mean, she said everybody thinks you, so
She did.
right with that. Oh my gosh. Congratulations, and I look forward to diving deeper into your story. Mrs. Guthrie, who are you?
So, if I had to describe myself to others, I would say that I'm a mother of 6 children. I am an acting interim assistant principal at Needham High School. But in terms of leadership, I think that the title interim assistant principal is the one that I least consider myself a leader.
Okay.
I also run a few different programs at Needham High School for Black and Brown students. One is Mentors Like Me, one is the Castle program, and then I do oversee the Black Student Union.
Okay.
In addition, I am a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I pastor a church here in Boston, and I am Natalie, so that's what you can call me instead of Mrs. Guthrie.
Okay. Natalie.
Yeah.
Shirley.
Shirley. Okay, all right. Natalie and Shirley. I can go for that. Natalie, tell me about the demographics in your school environment.
So I work in a school building that is about 80% white, another 10% Asian, and then another 10% is Black, Brown, Latino, other ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a predominantly white school.
Okay, how many Black teachers are in your building?
Including myself?
Including yourself. Audience wants to know.
3.
3.
Yes.
Okay, how many students are in the building?
How many students of Black students are in the building?
Just all students.
About 1,600.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And how many are Black students?
So it's about 5%.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that big. Like 1,600 students, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm going somewhere with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Shirley, the demographics of your schools.
So we have about 350 students. Majority, I think 98% are Black and Brown. Staff-wise, we have 68% Black and Brown people of color.
Okay,
So we have a very nice, diverse staff. And the average, my staff we've been together for over 15 years on average.
Okay, very well. And so if I'm gonna jump into the community of belonging. What does that feel like for your students of color and your staff of color?
So for us, we're very blessed, right? And so because we're in elementary school, pre-K, K1 to 6th grade. And so the reality is we have our kids from 4. And so we have, and we keep our students. Although we're in Cambridge, what happens as a charter school is people can't afford to live in Cambridge. When they have more than one child, they have to move out. But we're able to keep the students, unlike the public school. they would have to be removed. So charter schools are able to keep the students. And so our students leave Cambridge, but they don't leave our community. So we're able to graduate, I think we're in the high 70s of our students who graduate with us at the end of 6th grade.
Really?
So we keep our families, and I think the majority of our families come back. So for example, this year, where we have the most enrollment is in our K program.
Okay.
And the majority of our students are siblings. And because you're a charter school, we have sibling preference. And so I do think that plays a very significant role in our community, because we have a lot of families who know us.
Yeah.
The leadership team is very diverse, and the families see people who look like them. People who sound like them, and the students see all the possibilities. I think that we have a place where you feel like you belong. People feel like our students feel like they can advocate for themselves, and they do. They feel like they have rights, and they tell you about them. A 4-year-old will tell you about her right to extra recess quite easily. And our families feel very comfortable in coming to visit, coming to see the classrooms, asking questions. And what I find is that because we have such really high expectations, people don't always stay in our school. So families who come in, who might have a sibling who come in kindergarten and then want to transfer a child in the 2nd and 3rd grade. And the rigor, the expectations around what we do in terms of academia. We had a family who said it's just too hard. She can't keep up, and she took the child out. And I get it. Our demands, we expect Black excellence.
Go ahead.
And so
we expect Black excellence. Black excellence. Thank you, Shirley. But
in fact, that's our standard. So.
Okay then. Very well. So speaking of standards, and Natalie, don't come to you because we can get something different to paint. Your test scores. Tell me about your test scores.
So currently, we're the #1 district in English language arts and mathematics, and top 5 in science in Massachusetts, and we've closed the achievement gap for the last 6 years. So we outperform white students, Asian students. Yes. Last year, we had the #1 3rd grade classroom with 98% proficiency, and 2 years ago, last year, all our classrooms outperformed. The only school we were behind in terms of mathematics was Lexington, and we should pass them as well.
Sure. How? Wait, don't wait. Well, just hold on. Just pause. We're gonna come back and go over there. Natalie.
Yes.
Belonging in your home.
What does it look like?
What does it look like? What does it feel like?
So I would say that at Needham High School, students, there is definitely a cohort of students who feel very integrated into the fabric of life there. They feel that they are part of our sports teams, our extracurriculars. There is great space being made for them. However, those students usually are identified as white or Caucasian. If you are a student of color, then belonging looks different. Belonging is, so we do have a very small population of Black and brown students, and because of that small population, even just walking into a classroom, if you do see a student of color, most times that's the only student of color in that class. So that in itself, I know that I used to be in a predominantly white school, much like Needham, and the feeling of isolation that can bring in sometimes, despite the fact having friends on different sports teams or just growing up with different friends, it can isolate you because you feel like you're living a singular experience in a classroom where everybody is having a similar shared experience. So when we talk about belonging for our Black and brown students in a predominantly white institution, it's always a question, right? Because for the student, they're like, do I belong in this space? And if so, everybody doesn't have to look like me to feel like I belong. But are you creating pockets where I can feel comfortable? So it's a level of comfortability, and then that seeps into the way that our students manifest themselves in our sports teams, in their work, in testing, in different areas and arenas in which they have the narrative painted to themselves, whether I do or do not belong in this space.
Because, can I ask?
Go ahead.
I'm curious. curious because I think that it's really hard when there's a low number. So, for example, as a parent, right, my daughter, the last one, she's now a freshman at UConn. But before we were thinking, her first choice was Vanderbilt. And my worry, because she grew up at Banneker, which kids, with majority of kids look like her. She went to another charter school, CCSC in Cambridge, where the majority of students look like her. And I was very, very worried about sending her to Tennessee. I was very worried about her having not seeing people who look like her, and me not being able there to be a barrier for her because she's never had to experience that. Do you know what I mean? And I remember when I was doing my dissertation, I was talking to men who were still in education, and the one thing they talked about is this need that they felt, this heaviness that they felt about representing their race. And I'm curious about students in your school, do they feel like when something negative happens in the news, because that's where we see our folks represented, do they feel like that they're carrying that? You know, that social media is so prevalent. Do they feel like they're representing their race? If they do something wrong, everybody will know they're Black people.
So I can't answer on behalf of the students necessarily. I can base my answer based on my experience and based on conversations I've had with the students. So first I would just base it on my experience where when something happens that impacts or people of color, Black people, because I identify as Black, are highlighted, then have I, as one of very few Black people in my building, felt like a spotlight is on me. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's through questions that people ask me that have nothing to do with me, or like, you know, if somebody's like, how are you feeling? And I don't even know what they're talking about. They're not necessarily saying, how are you feeling? Like, do you feel well today? Do you feel healthy? Like, is this a good day for you? But they're like, how are you feeling with what's going on outside in the general world? Well, which, I mean, I think sometimes people may think that as white and like, you know, people aren't really trying to show they care. However, you know, if something happens with a particular white person in the world, I don't walk up to you and say, how are you feeling, right? So I just think that for me, it's awkward sometimes. Also, at times, I do feel like I bear the burden of my race. Like I feel like I'm an ambassador, right? So when I'm one of 2 Black female teachers, and I do feel like I am, when I speak to my students, when I introduce norms and expectations, one of the things that I highlight, because I might be their only teacher of color from K through 12, I might be the first teacher of color that they've had. One thing that I do say is, I'm Black. I want you to see that. I want you to know that. And I want you to know that I am Mrs. Guthrie. I am not Oprah. I am not Maya Angelou. I am Mrs. Guthrie. And so the things that I do, the things that I say are not indicative of every Black woman in this world. This is indicative of Mrs. Guthrie to separate, you know, myself from having to represent my race. However, I could imagine as a teenager who's still trying to find their identity, still trying to find who they are in this world and where they fit in, I can see what I'm feeling magnified times a million, right? So, you know, if they put on a particular song and they're like, you know, it might be a rap song, and they're like, I knew it. I knew all Black people love rap, right? And they don't know how to answer that necessarily, because they might like classical, they might like jazz, they might like some pop and country, but they just sometimes it's easier in their daily life, for my students at least, from the conversations with them that I have had, sometimes it's easier for them to be quiet and survive throughout the week instead of always speak up and make everything a fight. And it's not necessarily a fight, because to them it's not a fight, it's just they're protecting who they are. But to others, they may see that as a threat and a fight. And so balancing those two is a daily struggle that wears on you, not throughout the day, not throughout the week, but throughout the school year. So it's a constant battle.
So what is that toll? I mean, what is that? So what is that? Does that impact the grades? Does that impact attendance from students? Does that impact corrective actions or discipline, or like how does that impact the students?
So So I'm going to take Needham specifically out of the equation,
Sure.
because Needham is a great district in terms of we have great test scores, right? And so, but I will compare Needham to many suburban districts, right? They're similar to many suburban districts in which usually, if you look at suburban districts across Massachusetts, Black and brown students, as well as low income, special needs, they usually underperform in terms of MCAS and different testing. So if we are speaking holistically, like as the state, our Black and brown students tend to struggle throughout the state, right? Especially in populations where it is predominantly white population. Right. So that is indicative of many suburban districts across Massachusetts. With that said, we do try to implement programming to, so for example, we have a CASTLE program. And so CASTLE is—
Talk to us about CASTLE.
Yeah, so CASTLE is a program where we did an equity audit within our district. And as a part of that equity audit, we saw that our Black and brown students were not being recommended for AP courses. The rigor that you speak of, that starts in kindergarten through 6th grade, and that is an expectation. Our students weren't necessarily seeing themselves as like themselves included in that description of rigor, right? So when it came to AP courses and more rigorous coursework, our Black and brown students were not necessarily being recommended. And so as to the why of that, we did not know, but we said, you know what we're going to do? We are going to intentionally look at places where this student belongs in this class, and we're going to make sure that we don't just push the student to go into that class, but that we give them resources to support them. So that's what CASTLE does. It not only makes sure that we are recommending students of color to be placed where they belong, but it also supports them when they're there. COVID hit, and once COVID hit, we realized that the emphasis, at least from our students, what they were telling us is that we need more social emotional support. And so they were saying to us that it's great that you're putting us in these spaces, but I'm the only person there, and I need you to give me some tools to help me when I'm in that classroom, so that when we're talking about slavery and they say, well, Natalie, what do you think? That I don't just flip out, but I have a response, because the lesson plan can't be on my shoulders. It's up to the teacher to educate and to show highlights and portions where I am celebrated within this work, right? So that's what CASTLE does. So we have that. We also, with your help, we have a Mentors Like Me program. And Mentors Like Me was the brainchild. Well, basically, it was birthed out of our students of color were really just inviting me into one of the schools, and they were saying to me, you know, Mrs. Guthrie, we are experiencing this. And it was really experiences that they were having based on race. It was experiences that they were having based on micro and macro aggressions, things that they felt were really impacting them. And they're like, we need a space to talk about this. And these were younger students. So at the high school level, I was hearing the same things from my other students. And I'm like, they were actually, Mrs. Guthrie, can you be a part of this video where you tell us how it feels to be Black and Needham? And I'm like, why am I hearing the same thing all the time from my students of color? So I'm like, we need some place where we can discuss these shared experiences. That's what birthed Mentors Like Me. And when we talk about mentorship, it's not necessarily a mentorship program where, you know, Dr. Pepple, you mentor me and you take me under your wings, but it's a mentorship program to let people know that, listen, there's a common thread and a common denominator amongst all of us, and it's not just our skin color, it's the way that we are experiencing life within this school system.
So let me jump in. So, and then Shirley, I'm gonna come back to you. So with the other school administrators in the building, when you present this data to them about these shared experiences of the Black and brown students, what do those conversations sound like? I mean, what are they doing? It's hard to have those conversations. What can confront us?
So it's definitely difficult to have some conversations. Some conversations take a lot of courage to not just point out what's happening, but then after you point it out, it's kind of like on your shoulders of like, okay, well, now we can't just leave it alone, right? Like we have to kind of do something about it.
Right.
I've been very blessed within my district that the administrators that I work with, their ears are very open, right? And so they're really ready and set to do the work.
Good.
They just don't know how to necessarily do the work. And so that has often, when I say disconnect, is not their unwillingness to do something, but sometimes we don't know what the thing is. And so that sometimes can be problematic. Also funding. We don't really have, in an environment where DEI initiatives and things that focus on our Black and brown communities are being targeted. Sometimes out of fear, we don't know if people can earmark funding, but also we don't necessarily have funding earmarked towards things that would help promote our community necessarily. So that's always, and it's not the unwillingness to give the funds, it is, it's just hard to find. So
tell me about it. Very well.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Any follow-up questions?
I'm just wondering about, so these programs you're doing happen during the school day with your students?
Yes.
And they're able to, so it's nice, and are they able to form relationships in, at various grade levels, various systems?
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. My next question, Black women leaders. Hashtag it could have been me. And what I mean by that is you are the exception. Hashtag it could have been me, but such and such and such happened that allowed you to be the exception. What barriers have you knocked down? What obstacles have you overcame as a Black woman?
So I think to be fair, that I came straight out of university and went to Banner. It was my first experience, and so I've always worked with Black and brown students, and my principals have always been people of color. So the expectation for me to be successful has always been there. So my father owned his own business in New York City. My mother was an educator, so that was never something that I doubted. The possibilities, the capabilities, that's not something. What I always thought, because I'm Haitian, and so I grew up with a family that your color of your skin was just a natural, because every range happens in my own family, right? And so there were Black doctors, Black lawyers, and there were Black bums. That meant you didn't want to get a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it had nothing to do with color. It had to do with your personality. So that's how I grew up. And then you come into Boston, because I'm from Long Island, and you come into Boston, and there's a level of racism that you didn't even know, But when you're in a university, everybody is so collegial, right? And so everybody's so liberal, and there's liberal arts, and so you don't feel it, right? And then I go to a predominantly Black school, and when I'm working with my leader is Black, but the women I work with are all white. So there's predominantly white women educators in the field. And I didn't start to notice the difference until I think about year 2 or year 3, right? Because what I started to notice was that we have 2 teachers in every classroom. We have a lead teacher and a teacher associate. And I started to notice that all the lead teachers were white, and the teacher associates were Black. And so that dynamic was interesting to me, right? And I was born in this country, but I'm really Haitian American. And so I didn't understand the struggles of what Black America felt, right? It's just different than how I grew up. And so listening to things, at first I thought, this is an excuse. Right. You think to yourself, this is an excuse. This is, anybody can do it. My parents struggled to pay for tuition. We took out loans. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. But then you start to realize that not everybody has the same starting point. And not everybody has the same place. And so when I moved to administration, and I was very naively, I was very transparent. It's one of the problems for some people, because I really do say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And I ask you point blank, if I come into your classroom, my job is to make you better, right? So if I might notice something good, the that's not going to help you become better, right? What my job is to help you show you up.
Yeah.
You have to feel comfortable enough and trust me enough to be truthful and show me your weaknesses. Because that's the only way together we can sort things out. But if you're pretending and if you're keeping things from me, and I'm trying to do a gotcha, then we're never going to move. So I believe in transparency to be able to say what I mean. So you know, if I'm coming in and I'm saying to you, you know what, today was a great day, I'm out. You're not thinking, oh, she didn't really like it. She's only here 5 minutes. Right? And if I come in and I say, listen, this lesson is very confusing. I don't have to spend 2 hours coaxing you and stroking you and telling you, you know, hamburger, this was positive, this is what you need to work on. So I don't have that kind of time, right? I don't have that kind of time. And so that was my belief. And so when I came into the position, because I've been with these people forever, and I came up and I said, listen, we're going to be hiring Black folks. We need to hire, we have 3 positions open, and I want to hire 3 Black people. I want to hire men, if possible. If not Black people, men. That's what I want.
So you were intentional.
I was very transparent about it. And I did not expect a backlash.
Really?
I did not see that. I mean, when I tell you I was so naive in that I did not see it coming from people who've known me for a decade. You know what I mean? You've known me forever. And so you know that I have, there's not, I mean, of course, there's bigotry and bias in everybody, right? But I'm transparent. And so I'm honest. If I don't know something, I'm going to learn about it. And so I think later on I discovered, when I say later on, within weeks, I discovered the truth was that they were afraid. People were afraid that I was coming for their jobs, right? And so if I'm looking to hire Black folks, it's because I think 2 things: that they're not doing their jobs, or they're not doing their jobs well enough, and I want to replace them eventually. Do you see? And so I had to take a step back and really think about how to build a community and how to help people see the value of that. And that took some learning. And so that's happening in my school system. And then you go to DESE. Everywhere you go to DESE, it's just white men.
Now tell us who's DESE?
Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So that's who we answer to, right? And so when we go to the department meetings, when we go to program meetings, when we try to get a seat at the table, right? I look around and it's only white men. And not only is it only white men, they've been together forever. Even if they're not in the same system, the same district, they move from one district to the next district. And they all know each other, and they're all buddies, and they ice you out.
How so?
Oh, so you don't get a voice. What you say is, so people don't tell you, oh, be quiet, oh, Shirley, that little, oh, it's a charter school. So already in charter school, I'm set aside. I'm a woman, and I'm Black. So, dude, they move from just outright ignoring you to listening to what you say and then going about like as if you said nothing, right? And so I make the decision that you can't ignore my scores.
Ha! Come on, Shirley.
Yeah, you can't ignore what I do, right? And so people started to come visit my school, and they expected to see kids killing and drilling. But we have a dance troupe, we have science shows, we have math shows, we have artists, dancers. We just perform. We've Frozen. We take our kids to plays. We take them to DC. They go to Groton, Mass. They go skiing, snowboarding. They go canoeing. Our kids learn how to swim, learn how to hike, and they are getting a private school education. Period. And so when people come in and they try to speak, I'm like, you don't need to make an appointment. Just come. Because our kids, they think we're putting on a show. It's not my job to impress you. Right? The reason I let you in is because I think that what we're doing here is not a miracle. I'm not hiding something.
You said it's not a miracle.
It's not. Everything we're doing, every student is quite capable of doing.
Come on.
And so the truth is, if you want to do it, you have to do it. But we're very intentional about how we use our time, because that's the only commodity I can't give them. Right? I can't give them more time. Although at our school, we have a longer school year and a longer school day. And our teachers get paid about 20% less than every sending district.
But they're still with you.
They're still with us. Because nobody got into education to become rich. Right? I mean, that's the truth of the matter. But there's a satisfaction in knowing that you're making such a difference in people's lives. There's a satisfaction in knowing that your voice matters, that your ideas matter, that you matter. I know every teacher. I know every struggle that they're having. And we're a small school, so only I have 67 full-time staff members and there are 15 part-time. So we know everybody. You know, for my wedding, for example, I think we had 62 Banneker families there.
Oh,
You know, so we are very familiar. And I think that that gives me the courage to be able to go out and deal with the Department of Ed, to go out and deal with funding. We just bought our first building, and it was over $30 million. And all I ever heard was you. When I tell you that's the first thing people come out, when they look at me, they're like, you bought this building? Yeah. And they look at me like, well, how did you get this funding? I tell them the same thing. I say, oh, my dad used to tell me to go backyard and shake the tree.
Okay, sure.
And you sound stupid. You know what I mean? We invested. We know how to use money. I'm smart, dude. Like, duh. What do you think I did?
Right.
You know? And so when we're in the paper for the building, when you read the staff, it's so heartbroken because we're so excited about getting the building.
Yeah.
And then you read all the comments, and every single one is, they must not be educating the kids. That means they made no effort to look at our grades. Where'd they get this money from? You know, it's these questions. But if I were a white male, it wouldn't not be the case. That wouldn't be a question. You know what I mean? So I think that I need the energy from the staff and the students and their families to be able to deal with that. You know, and I do think it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I can't even imagine what it's like, because at least I have people who look like me and sound like me and have similar experiences to me when I go back to school. You're on your own both places.
So Natalie, hashtag it could have been me, but
What does it feel like? I guess it depends on the day that you ask. Sometimes I feel very isolated. I feel like I could go in a corner and cry my little heart out. And I just feel like I'm so tired, right? And so another thing too is that when you are a Black person and you're like one of the only working in a predominantly white school system, there's two different factions that you get. Is that sometimes you can be one of those people, like I know for myself, I'm working so hard on behalf of my Black and brown students. Like I have 20 roles, I'm really trying to push, I'm doing the whole restorative practice thing. I'm trying to make sure that in our discipline, you know, we're not unnecessarily disciplining students of color more than other people. I'm trying to do all these different things. But then you always have people on the outside who don't know the story. And they're like, you sit at that school and you ain't even doing nothing. If you've been there for 10 years, then how come, as if, so it's frustrating because I am only one voice.
Yeah.
And although I wanted to sound like a million voices, I can only sound like my one voice. And I can only do the work that I do and keep pushing in my space and do what I can do to make my difference. But then, like, there's days where I feel like there's great success and I'm moving the pendulum, and that feels like a gift that just keeps on giving. I will say that it's a line that I always use, is that I want to be the person now that I needed when I was in high school. So a lot of times people are like, well, why don't you just go work at, you know, this particular school or a setting where I would be one of many on the staff that look like me. And not that I would not want that, right? I do sometimes dream, like, what would it feel like to go to lunch and people be like, not touch my hair, or ask me certain questions where I just don't want to, where I could actually enjoy my lunch instead of educating not just my students, but my staff members also. What would that feel like? But then I go back to that line, I want to be the person now that I needed when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I went to a predominantly white school. I didn't have an Natalie. I had no Natalies that looked like me. And I
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had no teachers. We had zero, not one person of color in my building that was on the staff. And so what you're saying resounds with me so much in terms of, in a different aspect, but I am also a child of immigrants, right? And so my family came from Trinidad and Tobago, and I am me and my younger sibling are the the only two who grew up here. So I was raised very differently. I really say that I am Caribbean American or Trinidadian American or however you would say it, because a lot of my identity is, even though I was not born in Trinidad, is rooted in Trinidadian culture, right? There were certain things that I would go to school, and I wasn't just othered from my white classmates, I was othered from my Black American classmates because of my culture. So in that, you're always trying to find a space where you can fit in. And because of that, you learn to look at the world differently as well. It's not just Black, it's not white, but it's like the Black diaspora is so big and so huge and so flavorful, and we're from all over the place. So it gave me a very nuanced perspective of just everything, right? And so when I was in high school, I remember that in my graduating class, there were 3 Black girls. 2 of them decided to graduate early. They just had the credits, they could leave early, they were going to do it.
Okay.
I had credits to graduate early, but I wanted the full experience. I wanted to stay on the tennis team and all this other stuff, so I was like, I'm going to stay. And I went to speak to my guidance counselor, and we were talking about colleges, and my guidance counselor was like, what school do you want to go to? I said, I want to go to Boston College. And she was like, Boston College? I think you would be more comfortable at RCC, Roxbury Community College. And when I tell this story, I try to be very mindful that Roxbury Community College is a great school for some people. It was not a great school for me. Given my abilities, given my the talents that I have, Roxbury Community College would have been very limiting for me. And besides it being very limiting for me, it's not what I asked for. It's not what I wanted that office to say. And so at first, it was just like a rock hit my throat. Like, you know, you don't even have your voice anymore because something is just holding on to it. And I know that my father told me that I was going to BC. He told me that since I was in 5th grade. He came to this country, he got a job at BC because he knew he could get tuition remission from me. And he told me and my younger sister that's where we were going to go. And I was nervous because my sister was already on BC campus. And I thought, what does this adult know that is saying to her that I won't get there, right? My grades were telling a different story, but maybe there's something she knows. And so despite that, went home to my father's like, what did I say? And I'm like, you told me I would get to BC. He's like, I'm like, but the guidance counselor, he's like, what did I say? I'm like, you told me I would get to BC, but, and he's like, you need to start listening to all these buts. You gotta focus on what I told you and the dream that we created together. So I graduate, I get into BC, great, grand applause, love it. When I'm on BC campus, I'm studying one evening with my sister because we were taking a course together. And my sister was just like, man, look at us here right now. We were sitting in the store and she's like, I remember when that guidance counselor told me that I wouldn't even make it into BC, I should go to RCC. And I was just like, wait, what? I'm like, she told me the same thing. And so it took me that moment to realize how many other Black and brown girls did she tell that to? How many other Black and brown students, period, did she say that to? And so when I talk about but what did I say, right? And how your dream cannot be manifested through somebody else's vision, is that, yes, I'm tired. Yes, I'm frustrated. Yes, I want a job at your school. Can you hire me? Yes, right? But there's work for me to do in my space, and I cannot stop doing that work because there's a little girl, brown, Black, whatever, sitting there, a little boy sitting there who needs me to be the voice of reason when they don't have anyone else. And that's the reason I stay, because if it wasn't for that, bags packed, gone a long time ago.
And what's scary is that what you're talking about happened a little ways back, right? It's still happening today. As I think I said earlier, my daughter's in freshman at UConn. We were sitting she went to CCSC in Cambridge, and we're sitting down and they're having a parent meeting, and the counselors are talking about applying for colleges and general college app. She's our 3rd one going to school, right? And so my oldest is Johnson Wales University, and then my 7th at UMass Lowell, and then she's getting ready to go. And her top 2 choices were Vanderbilt and UConn. The 2 schools she wants to go to. And this woman is talking to a group of people, I would say at least 60 deep, and they're mostly Black and brown. And she's saying, you know, I know the kids have dreams of where they want to go, but you've got to think about these student loans. You can't just, you want to own a home. You can't just be putting money into school. And I'm listening to this, right? And my body is literally growing hives. Like, I didn't know that I could, I couldn't. started scratching my hand, and my neck started getting hot, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I hadn't eaten anything. I was thinking to myself, like I started physically shaking. And my daughter, she's like, Mom, what's the matter? I said, because this woman is saying nonsense. I said, this woman is saying nonsense, and my head it's just, I'm a Taurus. And so everything started bubbling. And so I raised my hand. I said, I'm sorry, did I miss a survey that you asked how much money we had? Did I miss a survey that you asked how much I put aside for my daughter to go to school? Stay out of my pocket. Come on. Stay out of my pocket. How are you deciding and determining what I'm willing to sacrifice and do? Dude, right now, my daughter got no money to go to UConn. Every day I pack a school lunch because her tuition bill is $8,600 a month. My husband and I said, she's going to school. All of our kids, we have 5, none of them graduated with loans. Neither will she. Now, once you go to vet school, you're on your own. If I have the wherewithal, if I can give you a down payment for your first home, I will do that. But going to college and not getting student loans, that I owe you. And so I'm willing to, don't tell me what I'm willing to do or not do for my daughter, which is why it makes me crazy. So she's in the animal sciences programs, and her counselor told her, she thinks that, taking 2 sciences in her freshman year is too hard. And I had to fight with my daughter. Like, I drove out to UConn. I said, little girl, please don't make me hurt you. Okay? Right? I have a doctorate. Doctorate. And you're going to listen to this woman who's giving kids advice to go to school for classes to take. That's what you're doing? You don't make any sort of sense. Because somehow they've convinced our children, that their voices are louder, that they know better. I'm like, dude, your mom did her undergraduate at BU, got a master's degree at Leslie, got a second master's degree at Wheelock College, and got her doctorate at Boston University. I have 5 degrees. Go ask her. You will do what I say. And so it's so hard that even though my daughter, I'm her role model. I was her principal. So she went to school and I was her principal. And so she knows and she thinks of me as smart, right? But this woman got into her head, and she just met this woman in weeks. Wow. Years. Yes. And so it's so scary what we don't know. What's good, and even in the story you were telling, is that the kids are advocating and talking to you about it, right? Because the students might not be able to say to other people, even those who look like them, I need a space to talk. I want a space to be heard. Yeah. At least this generation, because I don't think I would have had that courage in high school. Like, in high school, I went to Long Island, predominantly white school. Kids got chauffeured to school. Yeah. My dad drove me to school in his yellow cab. I didn't know that it was not a cool thing. I freaking love this. I love this yellow cab. I didn't, they went horseback riding. And, I didn't even know we were poor. Because my dad was a cab driver. And so he came home with a wad of cash. Yeah. You couldn't tell me nothing. You couldn't tell me nothing. And I'm Haitian. My Sweet 16 dress was made. Custom made. That was not a big thing to me. Yeah. I didn't know how broke we were. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I don't think I had the audacity that the kids have today to demand to have a voice at the table, to demand to have a seat at the table. And when we were fighting to have a seat at the table, they want to own the table. Right. And I like it. I'm for it, I'm for it. So it's exciting that, even, I do think it's a struggle, and I do, I don't think we're going to see it in my lifetime. I don't think we're going to see, especially I feel like we take 5 steps forward. Yeah. And I don't know who I was saying this to. I have more rights than my daughters have now. With their own bodies. Right. You know what I mean? And so the times are going backwards. It's a little scary. Now hold on, Shirley. Now hold on, because this is the part. Shirley's still in my thunder. This is the part where the WOH moment, the we out here moment. And so with the we out here moment, imagine you're in the middle of the ocean, no compass, no directions. It's just you and you're on your little boat, and you have to make a decision. And whatever decision you make, it's either going to lead to a consequence or a new way forward for your life. So here's my we out here now question. Looking at the current political landscape,
looking at the current events, what's going on in the world, how do you think this will impact us as Black women? And more importantly, how do you think this will impact us as Black women leaders? You were starting it, so I just want to interject.
It's a little scary. I'll tell you something. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm angry, and I think I'm really hurt because I feel like I'm used to people voting against their own interests, you know, and it's a little scary. So what's as I said to you earlier, I'm a little Black school, and we do every 4 years we do our own election.
Okay.
So kindergarten, first and second grade, they vote for our cookies for the next 4 years. Our K-6 votes for the president.
Okay.
And our 5th and 6th graders vote for whatever question. So this year they voted for the MCAS question. So our kids voted that the MCAS stayed the way it was. They wanted it to be a high-ranking, before one, right? But would you believe that we had nearly 15% of our kids voted for Trump?
Really?
Now, when I tell you that, it's because we have a very high Ethiopian population. And I do think that there is misogyny.
Of course.
There is that sense that a woman shouldn't be our leader. Right? And I think it's ironic now with all that's going on with ICE, the concerns. Right?
Yeah.
And so I find that very interesting. But you know what hurts me the most is how Black women are always in the fight for you. We fight for you with every cause.
Yeah.
Black men, women, we are fighting. We are there to fight for every cause.
Yes.
And so I was on that bandwagon, and I haven't gotten off yet. Right? On that bandwagon, my hands are done.
Yep. That's it.
I'm all set.
Yep.
Do you, boo?
Yes.
I'll see you in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I don't want you. I don't want to be part of your picket lines, and I don't want to be part of your let's not shop at Amazon. I don't want to be part of your anything anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm dying at a rate that doesn't compare to you at hospitals.
Yeah.
I can't control my own choices. And I'm asking you to support me. And you choose not to, you are on your own. I'm down for whatever consequences you have.
Yes.
It is for you to carry alone.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm really angry. My mother doesn't want me to be there. And I really do pray about letting some of that go. And I know that it comes from her. Like I know that it comes from her, right? But I just see my daughter, and I just see that I stood in the picket line when we were in BU for Haiti. Where the president of Haiti was, I fought these fights for you. And I can't believe that now we're backwards because of a man who has 34 felonies. And because you didn't want this Black woman, so you don't want me. And so I have not been able, it's only been 25 days. And I found that in November, right? And so I cannot, the anger is still there, and I cannot, I'm having a hard time letting that go. That's where I'm at.
I think for me, and I'm able to talk about it now, but after election night that night, I'll never forget that night. It was myself, a good friend of mine, and my daughter. And I asked my good friend of mine, I said, stay with us. I said, I don't think we should be alone tonight. I said, I want as many people as possible in the house while we're watching and unfolding what's going on. And I've never felt depression before, but I tell you, I felt it after that. And I gave myself grace. I said, Jess, it's okay to be hurt for the next few days. I didn't want anyone asking me questions. Don't ask me how I'm doing. Don't talk to me. This is what y'all want. And just like you mentioned, Shirley, no, I'm not wearing no bracelet. I'm not wearing blue. I ain't wearing orange. I don't want to hear any of that. I said, this is what you wanted. And then when the inauguration took place on MLK Day, and
that hurt too.
That hurt. And people say it's the Constitution. And to see that Dr. King's voice was drowned out, it just felt hurt. And I remember saying to a lot of my white folks, I said, where were you? We've been talking, we've been having conversations, we were at trainings. Y'all hate us that much? You hate me that much? Still hurts to this day, but I'm able to talk about it and not talk too much. But never again will I be thought like that. Never again.
I really, you couldn't have paid me to see that coming.
Yeah.
I went to bed proud, like not a worry in my mind. I was like, oh, blanket, heated blanket. I went to bed. I knew I was going to wake up to the first black. My daughter voted for the first time. I knew it. When I woke up at 2 o'clock, I looked at the news. I woke my husband. I was like, wait, I think something's wrong. So I started changing the channel. And I got up and I went to a different TV because something was wrong with mine. It could not be. And then when we see the popular vote, when I tears. I had tears. It broke. I think that's broken.
I think that, I mean, I feel all of that, but I was not surprised. I went to sleep, I mean, I thought before then, I thought Trump was going to win. So I approached it in two different ways, a place of faith and then, a place of flesh. And so my flesh, I can't say that I've seen anything in Trump that would make me call him an upstanding citizen. Any means. And so just my pure flesh and human being, like I just don't understand some of the things that come out of his mouth and the policies being made. How someone can say they care for humans. I'm not talking about Black, Mexican, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight. I'm just talking about a human. I don't understand how people can say they care for human beings, but then uphold policies that just seem so counterintuitive to humanity. So that's the way I feel. However, it's not an expectation because I feel like there's this white supremacy culture that pervades this system of American life that sometimes we are still trying to say I too am America, you know what I mean? Where it's like, and this is not, I mean, this is not a feel-good thing that I'm saying here, I acknowledge that, but because I live in these systems that have disappointed me so often before, I did not expect the system to reward me at this time. I am expecting to break it, and I do want my reward, but I do know as a Black woman, I'm gonna have to create and craft my own reward, right? Like I'm not expecting this system to get it. And so with all that said, is that, I'm tired too. I'm tired of standing up for people who do not stand up for me. And I'm tired of shouting out, holding up posters and shouting phrases in different languages where, where are you when I'm being beaten, bruised, and battered by a system that continually wants to stand on my neck? So I just feel like I'm always feeling like that, right? And I think that's important to note because there's not a time in my life where I feel, or in this country, where I felt supported, protected, or upheld. I've always felt like I'm okay as long as I'm supporting this culture.
Really? I see what you mean. I caught it. No, I'm sorry.
I feel like I can place myself in a position where I can elevate really quickly, or I can be all right as long as my white counterparts are okay too, right? And so within that realm, I either have to say to myself, is this how I want to live? Or, which I don't want to live like that. Is this how I want to live, or do I want more for myself? And in seeking more for myself, I'm realizing that this system is I'm not going to say never because, well, actually, no, I am going to say never. The system, the way that it's currently built, is never going to serve me in the way that it needs to. So I feel that in the daily work I'm doing, I'm trying to build a foundation for a new system that is not, and this is the thing, right? This is the faith part of me. The new system that I'm building is not just to service my needs. And even though as a Black woman, I don't want to stand for nobody. I'm tired. I'm right there with you. But because of my humanity, it's going to service everybody. Right? And ultimately times, that's the place where we lie.
We're not different because that's who we are. So even though I don't want to fight for you, I am not shopping at Amazon this week because apparently there's boycott. You know what I'm saying?
This week?
It's coming. I have the dates. I got the dates down. But I hear what you're saying, you know, and I have to hold on to some hope. Yeah. Because I think I'm scared if I don't. And so when I went to the NAACP MLK breakfast, there was a theme. Lots of speakers, right? But the theme that we've been here before, and we overcame it then. It felt right. And you know, and I'm sorry that you've never felt in a place, Natalie, like that, because I really have. Like, I grew up in a household where nobody ever said no to me. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know. You know, I didn't know we didn't have. I didn't know. I had secondhand bikes, but my father put the new things. I didn't know that it was a thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, and I think my children are that way. And because I work in a school where, you know, I kid you not, we bought this new building, and nobody thought we would. And everything that happens, like, we couldn't close in time. We closed 6 months late. But it turned out I couldn't get out my new lease until 6 months later. So we would be paying 2 mortgages if I didn't close. So I know that I'm not. I stand here only as a vessel. I know that God is leading me to do the work that I'm doing, right? And so I hold on. I hold on to that, and I you know, I'm blessed that I work in a place where I can send a text at 2 o'clock in the morning. I got an idea, and I'll get a text back. Shirley, you always have an idea. What am I supposed to do? You know, that's where I'm at. And so I live in the majority of my places. I feel real good. Like, I feel real good. My commute is 90 minutes each way.
Really?
Right? And we've lived in the same for 22 years. And so, and I have zero, like, we have no family here except for the children. My parents are retired. They moved to Florida. I can't tell you how many job offers that I get. You know, my husband, he can up and leave anywhere. He's like, and I have to be very clear, dude, you're gonna bury me in this new building. That's where you're gonna bury me. I'm not leaving. And so I have majority of those places. So I've got to just, right now I'm really still hurt. So I keep praying, my prayer is heal me. My prayer is heal me and take, you know, or help me guide this anger towards the right direction. You know, I have stopped the television. I've stopped, you know, like even like the nighttime shows that I used to think are funny, but they're all talking Trump, and I can't. I'm inundated with him. I cannot, you know. So I would rather watch Crazy Karens on YouTube. I'd rather watch. They're hysterical. Okay, I would rather watch everything happens in Florida. You could just watch YouTube.
That's my state.
Watch YouTube in Florida.
That's our
People
state.
fighting with alligators. I will do anything.
Alligators.
Yeah, I will do anything and then not watch the news anymore. You know, I don't, because I need space from it, but I need prayer and healing. Like, I meditate a lot because I'm really still very angry.
What else do you need as a Black woman? What else do you need? For the next
what I really, really want is to be able, so I think when I made a decision, right? We purchased this building for over 30, I think it was like 33 million, and we have about 10 million in renovations because it's an old building. But it's 7 acres in Cambridge, and that's unheard of. I have dreams of what I want to make that look like, right? And my goal is to pay that off in the next 5 years. Right?
Come on.
And so I have to make a decision about being very visible now, not just transparent, because I'm really good at staying in my school, working with my kids, making sure they're successful. Teachers who can't stay with me because they just need to shine, I send them off. But we have our Christmas party and we have 150 people because it cannot be just that. I have to bring back full staff because everybody's connected, right? And so what I have to do is become very visible. And I'm not a public speaker type person.
Really?
I don't like it. I don't like being in a crowd. It's not my go-to. I don't like interviews. I don't like it.
Oh, thank you, Dr.
Yes. It's not me to be in the limelight. I prefer to be in the background, right? And so I made the decision that I just told my husband, I said, I gotta find a public speaking class. I've gotta find something, because I think it's time that I use this momentum to garner, to help build other people up. Like I know my kids are going to be fine. My 350 kids, they're going to be fine. And I also know that with the staff I work with, they're going to be fine. And I know my own family's going to be fine. But I have to start worrying about outside of them. And I have to do that by being more visible. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next couple years.
To the little black girl watching, who needs a hero or a shero in her life, what advice would you give to her as she's on this journey, looking for her shero? Because they're watching. They're watching. What's the quote? I didn't have a hero, so I became one. What's your advice to them? That little girl.
To my daughters, I would basically say, whatever you see me do, I want you to do that better, right? And I tell any little black girl to don't play the comparison game. Don't compare yourself to any other, and I'm not just talking about race or person, because you are made uniquely you, right? And so don't play the comparison game. Do exactly what is in your heartbeat to do, but do it better, right? I'm not going to throw any cliches because really, we're educating students for a world that we don't even know what is going to happen and what's going to be. And so I'm not going to throw out cliches that's going to restrain them and put them in a box. I want them to look outside the box. Think differently, do it differently. If it doesn't feel right doing it this way, and it feels better doing it that way, do it. Do it. But as long as you get up and do something, that's all I really care.
Sure. I think that's well said. I do. I think my philosophy in general is that to whom much is given, much is expected. And so because of that, I think I want my little people to know that they're loved. I want them to know that they're enough. I want them to know that mistakes make you better, and that you have the power of reflection. I think if you listen to your heart, that's the advice I would give them. Listen to your heart. There are people, and it may not be in a direct circle. There are people who are here to be your hero, to be your role models. And your power is in who you choose to make your circle, to build your wall. I think one of my favorite comedians, he says that you have to be careful of who you surround yourself with, because your circle will soon be your cage. And so I do think my advice to children who are struggling is to find a friend. And you'll know who that friend is because they make your heart feel good.
Thank you all so much for joining us for one of the most amazing episodes we've had for hashtag. Please, if you can, like, subscribe, comment. If you want to hear more, if you want us to come back together, and maybe even have a part 2, because we ran out of time and I feel like there's more to say. But I just want to add one small thing. Sorry, Nike, I kind of got to borrow it, but just do it. Do it if you're scared. Do it if you're nervous. Do it if you don't have a blueprint. Just do it.